super bright and super sunny out there. So with that being said, let's begin work on the front of this thing.
All right, so small finding. When I tried, this is the outer tie rod, inner tie rod, and this is the one that I thought had an issue. When I was checking this and I try to turn this should move back and forth fairly easily if it's bad. This one seems to be good. This upper ball joint up here has a tiny bit of grease coming out, so I'm going to check for any wobble on the tire or on the wheel. The bottom ball joint seems to be fine. However, to check this, I need to release the ball joint, this ball joint here of the outer tie rod, and I need to push this back and forth like this. So push in and pull out. If it clinks right here, then, or if there's play here, or if this falls super easily up and down, well, not up would be going up, but you know what I mean. If it just falls fairly easy to the floor, then the inner tie rod is bad. I've checked this because it's torn, right? I pushed it all the way back. I don't know if I can show you. And I don't know how well you can see back there, but that grease, all the grease there is all clean. And I was looking at this. This is new. Someone messed with this one trying to take it off, but I don't believe they were successful. So what leads me to believe is that they removed this, they left this boot on, and they just replaced the tie rod. Also replacing this one too. And they just went with that. And the reason for that is because this other boot on the other side is in the exact same condition as this one, and I'm not getting any play here. So more than likely that's what they did. And maybe they probably assumed no one's ever going to get under here and check and find this happening. Also, I looked up the company that made this power steering rack, and this boot is $60. The inner tie rod is $60. So to someone trying to make sense of things, they probably assumed, well, I'd rather just keep replacing tie rods than replace one piece of plastic. So I'm going to see if I can find the replacement piece for this, but obviously a cheaper version of it. And then if this is fine, if this is not fine, then I'll just get everything and replace all of this. But yeah, so far that's what's going on. Now I need to take the tire off and try to remove this while the tire's off and see if I can get any play going back and forth. One other thing while I'm under here, there's a lot of room here. Like, there is just so much room and not enough wheel or not enough tire. So something that I've also noticed on the back too, going towards the car, I have maybe like 2.5 to 3 inches in the back that's free. So something that I'm going to have to consider, just because I just feel that this car could perform better, or let's take advantage of the fact that I can fit something bigger here than what's currently on here. I'll be breaking these loose, but not to the point where they are extremely loose, just enough so that the wheel is still against the hub, but enough that I can release these with a regular point, like if you can see up there where my wall of tools is at, but just enough to that I can release these with a regular socket. Actually, it looks like someone had these loose. Good thing I haven't driven the car around. My wheel's gonna fall off. Okay, so that's enough. I'm going to grab a regular wrench and then just tighten them with the wrench so that I can still be able to check and the wheel won't be loose enough for me to not get
the right response from the wheel. I've had it jacked up. This time my jack was able to reach the frame, and then the jack stand was able to just go under the frame there. So nothing crazy about jacking it up in the front. And I don't have any movement either side to side or back to back. So ball joints are good. At this time, I think now I need to remove the wheel, and then once I remove it, I should be able to start with or move over to the tie rod. I need to remove the tie rod. All right, so I've released it. If you don't know how to do it, you gotta take off the, so this is a nut that's usually on top up here. It's called a castle nut. And in between those gaps, there will be, usually, hopefully, there'll be one of these pins in there. You just have to straighten out the pin, pull it out, release the nut. Whoops. Release this nut that would be sitting on top up here, and this would be underneath it. And then it's just a matter of hitting here. I kind of messed it up and removed some of the paint there. I didn't use a rubber mallet, and instead I had a piece of cloth that I just used to wipe my hands right here, and it still wasn't enough. So I suggest you invest in a rubber mallet. This doesn't matter to me though. I'll just sand this down and touch it up with black paint. I have plenty of it. But my assumption is correct. You know, if we look at this here and let it go, there's still some resistance. It's not just going like super quick. And I push it in and out, and there's absolutely no movement. Also, if we look in there, it's actually, all that grease is actually super clean. So someone replaced this and this, but did not replace the boot. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus on the boot. I'm going to put this back on, just kind of slightly there, but I'm going to purchase the boots. I'm going to replace the boots there, and I'm not going to worry about the suspension. I will check the alignment afterwards. Once I replace that boot. I went ahead and ordered these. Where did I get them from? I can't remember if it was actually like off of like eBay or Amazon, but anyway, they just came. I want to say they were from eBay. So now I have the right boots. Well, these are a universal boot. The boots that are on the car themselves, on that rack and pinion, are actually very difficult to find. So it turns out that rack and pinion is from a let me make sure I remember right, 1971 Ford Pinto. And I guess they only made that rack and pinion for 2 years on that car, because that car was only made with it for 2 years. After that, I went to a Dodge Oni, I want to say, and that was in like 1980, late 80s or mid 80s sometime, I think, or maybe early 80s, I don't know, somewhere around there. Anyways, they were a problem to find. From Summit Racing, they were just way too expensive. Instead, I paid $20 for these universal ones and waited 2 days for them to arrive. So now it's time to just put these on and do an alignment afterwards. I don't know if I showed this side, but this one also has like, this one's actually much tighter even than the other side. It doesn't even drop on its own. I have to like push it down. It just stays up there. So, and then this ball joint is super tight. Like I can't even move it here. So these boots being torn, it's just that they didn't take the extra time to replace those. So I just need to release this nut here. I released the nut on the other side, but once I break them loose, then I will put paint on the back part right here, just so that I'll know exactly where they're at. And then looking at this one, the other one has so much thread left to go, yet this one's so far in. So I wonder what's going on there. Anyhow, I'll put the paint on there so I know exactly where they were at one point, and then
I'll unscrew this off, I'll remove the nut off, and then I'll bring that, if I can focus. This line's killing me. Anyway, I'll bring the boot out. All right, so I've broken the nut loose, and I'm just now waiting for that paint to dry. Nothing crazy, just put some nail polish on there. So hopefully it dries super quick. Okay, and now to start removing the boot. Back there, that bracket thing that holds the boot down, that one, I'm not seeing a way to remove it. This one, it has two prongs and you just squeeze them and it'll open up. You can bring it down. That one though, I'm not too sure how it's going to work. At worst, if I can't remove it, I'll end up having to break it off or cut it off and put a zip tie up there. So I've got the new one and the old one on the floor right now. One thing is that the new one has this extra piece here. So, but again, it's universal, so you can cut it up to the right size. So I'm going to be removing this part here and just have it start from there. That'll make it so it is the same size. And that will also give me this part here, which was very hard to find. And then, well, to find a boot with this part there, you know, this will cover that entire piece. I do feel that they need to be very close to the same length, if not the same length, because as this stretches and mostly when it stretches, I feel it could probably get torn if it's really short. So I'm glad that this one is gonna work out. And then one thing, and I'll probably show it here a little bit later, is that there's a very big difference between this one and on this side and the one on the other side. The one on the other side, the opening is like this big here, yet this one is like that big. Also, the other one does not have this section here. It just starts off like that, basically. So pretend you're only seeing this. That's how the other side starts. So yeah, I guess that's probably why these are kind of hard to come by nowadays. Here we go. I have the other side off now. So as you can tell, the opening is really tiny. Opening's fairly big. And then, you know, compared to the universal one, it'll work just fine because this one starts right there and it goes pretty much the same length as this one. So when it's cut to the right size there, this one on the other side, when it's cut to the right size as well, you know, obviously I'll be using the other one to cut this one, but it gets fairly close also to the same length. So at this point, this is what I'm going to go with. I do not justify spending $180 or $190, can't even remember, for the original ones of these from Summit Racing, I want to say, or wherever that I found them at. I'd rather spend $20 on universal ones from Taiwan. It's not going to hurt this car much. This car is really Frankenstein together anyway, so parts are from various different cars, so it's not going to hurt it to have something like this on there. And it's going to save me some money for something that is actually more important. Okay, so let me quickly show the setup I had to end up going with. I had to use hose clamps because the bracket kept slipping off when I was trying to put it on. Also, I tried zip ties and it just seemed to not be tight enough there. For whatever reason, the boot slips off. The ends here don't have the end there doesn't have what modern day rack and pinions have that will keep the boot inserted in there, and so it's all flush, similar to how this bar technically is back here, like it's just flush there. And so that's how this end is here, and if something's not on there really tight, the boot slips off. So the hose clamp seems to be the one for the job here on this one. And then I was able to reuse that last bracket, or the last little the last little clamp from that was originally on. But other than that, it's just a matter of now putting in the outer tie rod and just all the steps that I took to disassemble this will now be taken to assemble it, and then that's pretty much it. I would like to show this real quickly. If you can tell, this is where all the paint was at. So that very small thread there, you can kind of see where the paint was there. And there's this tiny white dot up here. I made that white dot to show that the nut was facing upwards. So right now it's facing like a little bit closer to like 11 o'clock. Which is not the worst of things. I kind of expected it to be a little off, and I'm doing the alignment anyway. But yeah.
Okay, so the wheels are back on the car, and
What I gotta do now is I'm going to roll the car back and forth a few times. It's just like a full rotation of the wheel so that the suspension will settle. After that, then at that point, I will be ready to get my alignment stuff set up. However, I will be putting that on a follow-up video. So for now, I'm going to take my battle scars. I ripped my shirt today. Got hung up on one of the parts down there. So it was a rough day. Simple changes, but rough situations and hazards under that car. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.